Hello, my name is Emma, and today I'm going to be ranking Shadowhunter's characters. I know that anytime a YouTuber is like, you guys have been asking for this, everyone is like, are people actually asking for this? But this honestly has to be one of my most requested videos in a really long time, so I'm super excited about it. I'm going to be ranking the grand majority of Shadowhunter's characters. There are only a few I left out from all of the different series, and I'm going to be doing my very, very best to make this video as spoiler-free as possible because I want everyone to enjoy. I've also made my own tier list because I'm just extra like that. First up, we have the Raziel tier because he is, of course, the highest level of being in the Shadowhunter universe. We have the Elite tier, my precious babies, because they definitely deserve their own tier. Then I have a solid good tier, and below that is average. Then we have forgettable, and finally our lowest tier is demon pox, because there's nothing worse than turning into a giant worm. Alrighty, let the discourse begin. Okay, so we are going to start off with Alec Lightwood. I'm already conflicted. I feel like Alec is a good character, especially as he has gotten older and like progressed through the series. In the beginning, especially when I first read the books, I would consider him forgettable and then average, but I feel like now he's totally at good status. He's just never been a particular favorite character of mine. Next we have Camille Bellecourt. This is where it gets hard when it comes to like villainous characters because they're not good people, but they can be good characters. But honestly, Camille never contributed like anything to the story other than drama and havoc. I feel like she's gotta go demon pox tier. She's just caused a lot of pain for some of my faves, and I'm not okay with that. Next we have Clary Frey. Clary gets a lot of unnecessary criticism in my mind. People think that she's annoying and weak, and like I could not disagree more. I feel like Clary was a fantastic protagonist for the Mortal Instruments and what that series set out to do, and also along with Alec, and what I will say about pretty much all of the Mortal Instruments main characters is that they just grow better with age, and so like adult Clary is incredible, and I feel like she has to go elite tier. Ooh, I don't know. Do I consider her Raziel tier? I feel like elite tier is speaking to me, and I will definitely reserve the right to change any of these later. Oh, so next we have George Lovelace. I feel like George is a precious baby tier. Like, he's not the most prevalent character in all of the series because he's really only centered in Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy, but he is just such pure good. He is adorable, he brings great comedic relief to the book, so he is definitely a precious baby. Now we have Hodge Starkweather. Hodge, I feel I'm going to put in demon pox tier because, again, he's just like not the most influential, and the role that he played was like this weak, sad man who had no backbone and got taken advantage of and allowed himself to get taken advantage of. And he's definitely in the forgettable tier because I totally forget that he's a character at all most of the time. We're gonna go demon pox because I just don't care about him. Oh, next we have Isabel Lightwood. This is getting difficult. I feel like the lines between Raziel tier and Elite tier are very, very blurred. I feel like I kind of want to put Clary and Isabel in Raziel tier. I feel like it's just gonna turn into the Mortal Instruments characters on top. I think I'm gonna do it anyways. Whatever. I can always move her down if I want to. That's the point of the game. Oh, okay. So next, of course, we have Jace, and this isn't even a question he's going in Raziel tier. Jace is absolutely my favorite character. I think he's probably my favorite literary character of all time. Yes, he's a snarky asshole most of the time and does some things in the Mortal Instruments that would not normally be considered Raziel tier, I don't think. But Jace's complexity and vulnerability has always really touched me in a way that other characters don't. He's incredibly special to me. He's the whole reason why I am as big of a reader as I am right now, so I owe a lot to Jace. Next we have Jocelyn. I think we're gonna go with average because while I do feel that Jocelyn is a very strong-willed character and there's a lot of great aspects that she brings to this story, I also think that she's a very controlling mother some of the time. I think she made things a lot more difficult than they needed to be for some characters at certain points, so we're gonna go with average. Okay, next up is Jordan Kyle. Now, when I first read The Mortal Instruments, I really liked Jordan, and throughout my like like 9 rereads since of the Mortal Instruments, I feel like I have just liked him less and less. He doesn't come in until the end of the series, his role is pretty minimal, and the role that he does play is like not intriguing at all. At this point, I feel like I don't feel a lot of sympathy for him. I just don't care for him, so we're gonna go with forgettable, because even though some people I think would consider him a main character of the Mortal Instruments, I do not. Next up, we have Lily Chen. Lily is a very small character in the whole Shadowhunter Chronicles, even though she does appear in a few other series. I really like Lily. I think she adds a little bit of spice and flair to some of the character interactions. That said, she does make a choice in Ghost of the Shadow Market that I felt was like very out of character for her, so I'm kind of left undecided on how I feel about her until I think we get into the Wicked Powers. But I think I'm still going to put her as a good character. I think I would have previously put her in my Precious Babies section, but she's good for now, until we know. Next up, we have Luke. I feel like Luke is also a solid, good character. He was a good father figure for Clary as a part of like her whole chosen family storyline. He's incredibly loyal, always looking out for the best in people, and really takes on a huge leadership role as the series goes, so he is good. Luke is like pure neutral good. Next up, we have Magnus Bane. I feel like there is no other answer than to put him in Raziel tier. Yeah, of course Magnus is Raziel tier. He is the only character, I believe, that is in every single installment of the Shadowhunter Chronicles, or like every series. And so he is just like the character that bridges all of them together. Next we have Maya. Maya is a character I unfortunately don't think about a lot. While Maya is totally a central character to the Mortal Instrument, she kind of feels like on like the very outskirts of it, 1 foot in the Golden Circle and 1 foot out. And she hasn't really played a major role in any of the other series as well. So I just don't feel the attachment to her that I do with many other characters from this series. I think we're gonna go with average. I feel like Maya is a very strong character. She has a difficult past that she works really hard to overcome, but I just don't feel like she's in the same realm as the people I consider good. Oh god, next we have Maureen. Maureen was always annoying to me. Maureen was a great character for the role that she played in Simon's development, and that was it. I was very disinterested and over with her by the end of the Mortal Instrument series, and I just thought the role she took on was very bizarre. So we're gonna go with Demon Pox. Next we have Max Lightwood. I gotta be honest, I really made the Precious Babies tier just for Max. He has such a short time in the Shadowhunter Chronicles, but he is just so pure and innocent and good in all of it, and I really wish that we always got more content from him. I think he really could have played a much bigger role in this series, and I feel like Cassie has kind of made up for that with the Dark Artifices series by focusing on Shadowhunters who are significantly younger than the teenage main characters. Next we have Rafael Santiago. Rafael is such an interesting character because I really disliked him and did not care for him at all when I first read the Mortal Instruments. But again, with all of the different new installments that we get and the extra backstory we have on Raphael now, I've really come to love him. I feel like he kind of becomes this like side anti-hero in a way. That said, I'm like, do I consider him good? I don't know. He's like, I feel like there needs to be a tier between good and average. I made the damn tier board, but I just don't know how to describe that space. I'm really conflicted. I feel like if I put Maya in average, despite like really liking Maya and seeing a lot of value in her character, that's a good place for me to put Raphael as well. I feel like there's such a negative connotation with the word average. Like people automatically assume that because you're average, you're below average or you're not good enough. And average is just like, that's how I would describe average. I'm kind of feeling like I gotta move some of these Mortal Instruments characters out of the Raziel tier. I just feel like it's so skewed. Oh, here we go. This is gonna throw me for a loop. We have Sebastian Morgenstern. This is a perfect example of a character who is like written to be a phenomenal villain, but is a horrible person. Sebastian has always been very special to me though. Like I have his bracelet tattooed on my arm because he made such an impact impact on me, and so I feel like he's a really great candidate for the elite tier, in my very subjective personal view of this ranking. He is such an evil being, but he is written to be evil, and he does it so well. Oh, now we have the Seelie Queen. You know, I love the Seelie Queen a lot. I think she's a fantastic villain, but I just don't know where to place her. She's not forgettable. She has some of the most iconic scenes in all of the Shadowhunter Chronicles, but I also don't know if I would consider her to be a good character. I feel like in that case, the easy answer is to go with average. You know, I tried really hard to make the ranking kind of scaled positively because I knew there would be so many of these situations where I'm going to love so many more characters that I hate and like want to throw in the trash. But even now, I feel like there's still not enough layers in between all of the positive ones. Oh, next we have Simon. Simon, again, is a character I didn't care for really my first time reading The Mortal Instruments. Obviously, I was 17 and I only fucking cared about Cleric and Chase. But Simon has grown on me, and he is such a fantastic character. He really glues the entire Mortal Instruments together and also grounds it in reality because we are following the perspective of the mundane in this world of magic. I feel like Simon is totally elite tier. His character arc is really impressive, and I know that I definitely didn't appreciate him as much when I was younger, so I hope that people are like really digging into how amazing he is now. Oh god, now we have Valentine. My instinct is to place Valentine in the Demon Pox tier, and it's really not just because that's where I'm putting many of the villains. I just feel like compared to the wide array of different villains that we have in the Shadowhunter Chronicles, he is totally at the bottom tier. Like, to me, he wasn't even the best villain in the Mortal Instruments, let alone the entire saga. So he's gonna go in the Demon Pox section. Alright, and finally out of my TMI folder is Ragnar Fell. Honestly, I feel like I have never liked Ragnar as much as some other people. Yeah, I don't know. There's just never really been anything about him that attracted me to his character, so I think I'm just going to place him in the forgettable pile. I feel like people are gonna be mad. Alrighty, so now we are moving on to the Infernal Devices characters, and first up we have Cecily Herondale. Now, honestly, I feel like Cecily kind of also got cheated out of her series. She only appears in the very, very end, and I feel like we have so much more potential to get to know her. And we get to see her a little bit more in the last hours because the main characters are her children, but I've always wanted more Cecily Herondale content. I feel like Cecily has just always really held her own. She was a great contribution to the Infernal Devices where I think they would be incomplete without her, so I'm definitely putting her in the precious tier. Next we have Charlotte Branwell, who I already know is going in the elite tier because she is just such an absolute bad bitch boss. I feel like she's just like the older sister slash mom figure of a lot of the main characters from the Infernal Devices, and like she gets shit done and does it right. Next we have Church, who of course is going in the Precious Baby section. Is that even a question? We love Church in this house. Alright, next we have Gabriel Lightwood, and I kind of want to put him in the forgettable section. I'm stuck between average and forgettable. I just never really cared for Gabriel. I think that he does like grow up a bit at the end and has some merit to his character, but I just never really cared for him. So we're gonna go with forgettable. Now we have Henry Branwell. Henry also goes in the precious section because I adore him. He is incredibly talented and intelligent. Literally, the Shadowhunter world would not be what it is in the present day had it not been for Henry. And I've just always really empathized with him because of the way that people look down on him. Henry Branwell must be protected at all costs, and I am not taking any other answers. Ooh, next we have Jessamine Lovelace. Like many characters I've already mentioned, I did not like Jessamine when I first read her character. I was just always off-put by her reluctance to participate in Shadowhunter life. And then through other rereads, I realized her reasoning behind it and have come to really enjoy her as a character. It's not that she's lazy, she has different values and desires than the world that she was brought up into, and I feel like she doesn't deserve to be judged for having that. But I think we're gonna go with average because she also does some things that I do not like, and I think she does have a good redemption arc in that respect. but she just hasn't wowed me as a character, I would say. That's a good way to describe the average tier. Ugh, okay, next we have Mortmain, and we're just gonna throw him right in the Demon Pox tier because I never really cared about him as a villain, period. Ugh. Now we have Jem Carstairs. Jem definitely goes in the elite tier. He's another character. There's so many characters that I did not appreciate enough the first time around, and he's just really grown on me in his sweetness, his gentleness, and his bravery. Next we have Tessa Gray, who I feel like also has to go in the elite tier. She was never my favorite protagonist. I've always leaned more towards Clary and Emma in that regard, but she is so wise. Tessa is the type of person I would love to be friends with. She just has the biggest heart and the strongest mind, and I've just felt a lot of inspiration from reading her character over the years. Next, we have Gideon Lightwood, whom I also never really cared about, but I always liked him better than Gabriel, so I think maybe for that aspect we have to put him in average. Oh, but the scone scene. The scone scene solidifies it. That is like the legacy of Gideon Lightwood, and I feel like he should be very proud about that. Next we have Nate Gray. Nate, another character that doesn't play a long-standing role in the series, but he fucks a lot of shit up. I feel like his character actions would put him along the same lines as Hodge, but honestly, I think he's even more forgettable than Hodge. Like, I never think about Nate Gray. Who thinks about Nate Gray? So that is where he belongs. Next we have Sophie. I adore Sophie. Sophie has just always been such a wonderful person. She's resilient and hardworking and honest, and my heart just like soars for that girl. And finally, who else but Will Herondale? I have always been a Will girl. He's one of my absolute faves, and like most of the characters in here, I've gotten to appreciate his characterization and the arc of development even more throughout the years as I've reread the series. I feel like I'm also gonna put Will in Raziel tier. He's gonna be my number one from the Infernal Devices. Alrighty, so now we are moving on to the Dark Artifices. We are starting it off with Ash. So Ash is a character we don't know all that well. We got more information on him in Queen of Air and Darkness, but he definitely won't be playing a major role until the Wicked Powers. So I feel like his character, definitely with all of the elements surrounding his parentage and his powers, he is like a to be determined character. But currently, I love Ash, so I feel like I'm going to put him in my Precious Baby section. He hasn't done anything yet to make me nervous about him, and I think he's going to have a really interesting character arc for the final series, so I can't wait to see what happens. Next up, we have Cameron Ashdown, whom I never really cared about. So he is just going to go right into the forgettable section because I feel like he just plays such a minimal role, and I don't think we ever really needed him. Next we have Christina Rosales, who I believe is definitely elite tier. I feel like Christina is like the underrated hero of the Dark Artifices. I feel like she does not get as much attention as Emma or the Blackthorns. She's just so kind and clever with a massive heart, and I feel like she just has a really, really interesting path of development. So I'm really satisfied with putting her in the elite tier. Next up, we have Diana Rayburn. I feel automatically drawn to put Diana in the good tier because I feel like Diana is just one of those characters kind of similar to Luke, where I feel like she is just like a solid character. She's an interesting backstory, she's incredibly strong, and she really carries a lot of the Shadowhunters for this series in some ways that I feel are not necessarily recognized all the time. I love her story. I think she makes a great contribution to the Shadowhunter world, and I really hope we get to see more from her in the future. Okay, next we have Diego, whom honestly, I don't care about him much either. He was never all that interesting to me. I feel like he just gave like a very unnecessary like extra piece to this love hexagon we've got going on in this series, so we're gonna put him in the forgettable tier. Next we have Drew Blackthorn. Despite being a part of the main cast, Drew kind of feels like a side character in the Dark Artifices, and like she's meant to because she's going to be one of the main characters and definitely one of the biggest narratives we have in the Wicked Powers. I love Drew already, and I know I'm going to love her more as we get to delve into her own independent character, separate from who she is as a Blackthorn. But for now, I think I'm going to put her in the good tier. Next we have Emma Carstairs. Emma is a favorite of mine, not just because we share the same name. I've always loved Emma. She's really tough, really smart, so she's just gonna go right into the elites. Next we have Gwen ap Nud, who is a very random character, but I have always really loved Gwen. He doesn't play a big role though, so I think I'm gonna put him in average, but just know he's weirdly a favorite of mine. Next we have Jaime Rosales, who again is going to play a bigger role in the Wicked Powers. But I've never really known how to feel about him. I believe he has done good things in this series, but he's just still low-key a little shady to me. I think for now, I'm gonna put him down with Forgettable just because, this is where I put the characters I don't really care about. Next, we have Johnny Rook. Johnny's, a silent but important character, but I never liked him. I feel like Johnny Rook also has to go in Forgettable because it's not like he is a terrible person. He's just a crook. That's the whole point of him. Next we have Julian. Now, Julian is a character that I feel is going to vary greatly depending on who is doing this tier ranking list. I am someone who has always loved Julian Blackthorn. I've always admired the way that he took care of his family from such a young age and all of the pressures that he's had to take on and carry by himself in order to make others survive. He's definitely got some anti-hero in him. He doesn't like to play by other people's rules. He's incredibly clever, but he's also very manipulative, but that's kind of enticing to me. So I think we're gonna put him right next to Emma in the elite tier. All right, next we have Kieran. So Kieran is a character that I hated and liked and then didn't really care about. Seems like average is the place for him to go. I think he does have a really interesting redemption arc and one that was very unique, but he just never appealed to me the way he has with other characters or the way that other people have been entranced by him. Next we have Cait Rook. Cait is so unique. I feel like even just looking at this portrait of him, he is just mischievous. I love his relationship with Ty so much, and I think he is going to play such an interesting role in the Wicked Powers. For now, I think we're going to go with good because that definitely leaves room for improvement and going up the ranks in the future. Next, we have Livy Blackthorn, who honestly just always makes me smile. And the thought of her makes me want to cry, but her as a character just brings light and joy to my life. I think we're going to put her in with the goods. Next up is Mark Blackthorn. Now, Mark is someone who is one of the main core characters of the Dark Artifices series, but I just never gravitated to him the way that I did with Emma, Julian, and then later Christina. His whole growth is really fascinating. He's another character that just has will of steel, and I don't know how he has survived a lot of what he's gone through. I feel like I just never really connected with Mark. I liked him. I love Mark Blackthorn, but he's just not a favorite of mine, so I think I'm gonna put him in average. I feel like that's blasphemous because I know there's a lot of Mark Blackthorn fans out there, but he just has never been for me. Next we have Annabelle Blackthorn, who once again is a villain that I'm going to be putting in the Demon Pox tier. Honestly, it's not because she is a villain. She just wasn't the most compelling villain in my opinion. Especially with the way her character ends in Queen of Arin Darkness. She just lost a lot of the power and interest that I felt she had at the beginning of the series. And that to me does not make a good villain. Oh, okay, next we have Tavi, who's just automatically going in the Precious Baby section. We don't really know him all that well, but he's such a youngin', so of course he's going to go to Precious. Very interested to see what we learn about Tavi as he's older because he's still going to be younger than Drew and Ty and Kit in the Wicked Powers, but I think he'll definitely have a bigger role. We just don't really know him yet, so I'm just gonna play into his cuteness. Now we have another Precious Baby, Ty Blackthorn. I honestly think that Ty might be my favorite character in the Dark Artifices. I just think that he is so authentically himself. He doesn't want to be anyone for anyone else, and that really stands out to me. So we're gonna put him in Precious Babies for now because that is how I view him, but I think that he definitely would move up to Elite or Raziel tier as we get into the Wicked powers. Alrighty, so next we have Zara Dearborn. No words need to be said. Next up is Aline Penhallow. Aline is someone who I feel like is also kind of on the outskirts of both the Mortal Instruments and the Dark Artifices, but I've always liked her. She's very blunt, and throughout history, women have definitely been looked down upon for being blunt and speaking their minds, and Aline really owns that. She's going to go right in the good tier. Next is Arthur Blackthorn. Now, I feel like I included Arthur in this initially to put him in my Precious Babies tier because I always have had such a soft spot for him. I just hate the way that he has been ostracized by the Clave for dealing with mental illness after such a tragic past, and so I've always been one to really empathize with his position. That said, I'm realizing now that within all of these characters, it would be such a long list before I got to him, even just like naming characters I could think of. I feel like maybe we'll put him in the average pile because it's not that I don't care about him like most of the other forgettable characters, he just isn't the most... What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know why, but the first word I felt was dazzle. He just doesn't dazzle like some of the others. Next we have Helen Blackthorn. Now, Helen's a character I feel like I don't really know. The only time we like really see who Helen is Queen of Air and Darkness. And there's so much else going on in Queen of Air and Darkness. I think she plays a great role. I like her character. She just doesn't stand out to me. Again, she's somewhere between good and average. I need like another tier. My first instinct is to go with average, so we're gonna go with average. Next up, we have Malcolm Fade. Again, I guess Demon Pox really is just like the villain slash antagonist section because I don't have anywhere else I want to put him. He's kind of like Mortmain to me though, so I think for that reason we'll go with Demon Pox. And finally, for the Dark Artifices, we have Katarina Loss. Katarina, another character that I feel is good. I think that she adds a lot of guidance for many of the characters, especially in Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy and the Dark Artifices. But she's just not as memorable as other people, and she also doesn't really play a huge role. So I think we're gonna go with average for her as well. So moving on to our final cast, we have the Last Hours. Now I feel like these are the ones I am going to be the least sure about, at least in some cases, because the only book out is the first one, whereas I have at least like 3 to maybe like 10 books of content with other characters. First up, we have Alistair. Now, Alistair has gone through a pretty big character growth already in just Chain of Gold from Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy. He's still not a favorite of mine though. Like, I definitely like him a lot at the end of Chain of Gold, but compared to the other characters, he is more of like a bottom tier for me. I think we're gonna put him in Forgettable because when it comes to like the main cast of Chain of Gold, Alistair is one of the last that I would probably name, but with all of these, it's to be determined. Next we have Anna Lightwood, who is just automatically going to Raziel tier. Anna is one of my absolute favorite characters, if not my #1 favorite character in the Last Hour series, and I'm really hopeful that we get more content from her because she kind of took a little bit more of a backseat compared to like James and Cordelia's storylines. She's just like an absolute firecracker. I think she has so much to offer to the story, and I can't wait to see her get even more involved. Next we have Ariadne, who I kind of feel is between average and forgettable. That's a new mixture. I really liked her in Every Exquisite Thing, which is the novella that features her and Anna in Ghosts of the Shadow Market. But beyond that, she didn't play a huge role in Chain of Gold, and I still feel like we just don't really know her yet. So that's my reasoning for putting her in Forgettable. But again, as I'm sure that we are going to have more content from Anna, we will also have more content from Ariadne. And I think that we will definitely, I'll definitely warm up to her more as the books go on. Next we have Charles, who for some reason I always call Charles Buford. I don't know why I always focus in on his middle name. I really don't like Charles. Like, there's just nothing about him that is interesting to me. He does a lot of shitty things in Chain of Gold, I feel. I just feel like I haven't even had a reason to like him yet. But I'm kind of in between Forgettable and Demon Pox. I think we'll go forgettable because he isn't actually, like, a villain. No, you know what? We're going to go Demon Pox because I really don't care about him even less than some of the other characters in the forgettable tier. Next we have Christopher. Now, Christopher is another character that just, like, isn't one of the central narratives in Chain of Gold, but I think that there's room for him to be more prominent in the future books. I think for now we're just going to put him as average, but, you know, I think he makes a lot of really important contributions to Chain of Gold, and he just hasn't gotten his spotlight yet. I also just, like, he's just so sweet and cute, and all he wants to do is hang out and invent stuff, and I think that's awesome. Next we have Cordelia. I feel like Cordelia is definitely going to go in the elite tier. Cordelia is thoughtful, responsible, inspiring. She just has so many incredible traits. I never realized that Cordelia was going to be, like, one of the main characters of the last hours until Chain of Gold basically came out. But I've been really surprised with how much I love her, and I'm really excited to continue getting to know her character. Next we have Grace Blackthorn. Grace is such a difficult one to place. So there's, like, a lot of Grace Blackthorn hate, and I don't like her either. But I feel like I, like, hate her less than other people. I think that she has done some really horrible manipulative things, but I think she's also a product of the way that she was raised, and that's important to take into account with her character. It's difficult because I don't, like, hate her, so I don't want to put her in Demon Pox. She's also not a forgettable character because she is so unique and interesting, but I feel like average is kind of a stretch because that makes her seem, like, too good, and I feel like she is I don't know, guys, I'm really stuck. In that case, maybe we'll go with average. I essentially think that she is going to bring a lot to the series. I don't know if that's good stuff, but I think she's going to uplift the story, make it more complex and interesting. And I'm intrigued by her. I don't hate her, but she makes me think. So I want to put her in average. Next we have James. I love James Herondale. I feel like he's often looked at as, like, a little Will, but he's truly independent. I feel like he's just a little troubled, but he does have a good heart. He's super loyal to his friends, and for that, I think we're going to put him in the elite tier. Next, we have Jesse Blackthorn. Now, again, Jesse's a character that, like, I like, but I don't have strong feelings about him. Maybe he belongs in the good tier, because I think he does a lot of good things. I think he's an interesting character. I want to get to know him more. So maybe let's go with good tier. I feel like I haven't put anyone in just, like, the solid good tier for a while. Next we have Lucy. Lucy is another absolute favorite character of mine from the last hours. I feel like I identify with her very strongly. She's gentle and kind and creative and smart, but she also has this, like, bit of fire in her that I feel like we haven't even fully explored in just the first book. I think we're gonna get a lot more Lucy content going forward, and I can't wait for it. She's definitely going in Raziel tier for me. Next up, we have Matthew Fairchild. Matthew is another favorite character of mine. There's just, like, so many incredible characters in the last hours. I first became really interested in Matthew after reading his novella in Ghost of the Shadow Market, and I feel like his character throughout Chain of Gold is just as satisfying. I think his character is destined for great things. That's what I think of when I think of Matthew Fairchild, so I think we're also going to put him in the elite tier. And finally, we have Thomas Lightwood. Thomas is another really sweet boy. I'm very intrigued in following his character development, but I feel like I also don't know him all that well. I would say out of the main characters of the last hours, I know the least about him, and therefore I kind of want to put him in average. Again, I think that can definitely change in the future, but I just don't know enough about him yet for him to really wow me. Alright, I have decided to make one final decision purely based on aesthetics. The average tier is just too big. There's too many. I keep making them tiny and I don't want to make them any smaller. So I am going to move Arthur Blackthorn down to the forgettable section. You know, a good example is like Ariadne. Like, I don't know her well enough. We don't get to know Arthur Blackthorn as much as some other characters. I still really like him, but he just doesn't play the most prominent role. So that's why I'd put him in forgettable. But that concludes me tier ranking ranking all of the characters from the Shadowhunter Chronicles. I had an absolute blast filming this video, and I really hope you guys enjoyed watching. I would love to hear your thoughts on my ranking in the comments below. What characters do we agree on? What characters do you think I did super dirty? But that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you soon for a new one. Bye!